Let's start right where we left off in the previous record, talking about triggers and trigger processing, which resides here on the input table, on the input processing table, in this case for VG customers, but it's not input processing. I've been drumming it into you, probably laboriously, but it does not happen when the user presses escape. It just sits there on this table unused until their cursor goes into this particular field, and they leave that field. They cause their cursor to leave field 19. Then this trigger processing pointer starts operating and operates until it's either ended with a screen or an end statement. Those are the first two things that are allowable to end it, and I'll tell you the others later. There are a couple more. And the same thing for this field 20 processing. Let's talk about what other trigger type processing is there. There's another kind of trigger processing that also resides on this table. It also does not happen when you press escape. It's called at key processing. And it happens when you're at when your cursor is blinking at the enter selection prompt. In other words, you're not updating a record. Your cursor is sitting down there at, here, let me move to this file. Let me go into VG customers. I'm now at a command prompt. I'm going to go right into RClerk into VG customers to screen 1. I'm not going to be asked any questions. We go right to the same place we've been going through the menus. This is called doing it from the command line. If you were in Windows, you'd be doing it from the DOS prompt essentially, or from a menu prompt, a menu command. You can do this. I'll be showing you how to do this, but basically I've come into a record to show you that my cursor is blinking at enter selection, and the only choices I really have are D for delete, H for hard copy. These are at keys essentially. They're factory built-in at keys. They're not on any table. Clerk itself and FilePro will act on these keys if you press them. If I press a D right here, it says the record deletions. Do you want to do that? No, I don't. I can press H and get a hard copy. H gives me that hard copy. You hear my printer going. These are essentially at keys. In fact, we can intercept them and do something different with an at key. Let me do that. In other words, when I press D right now, you see it says a record deletion has been requested. Do you want one? Yes or no? And if I press yes, bang, this record goes off the face of the earth. I'm going to say no. All right. Let me stay. I'm going to back out of this processing, and I'm going to go over to the table I was on, and let's write some trigger process, some key processing, at key. And now the D key is the one that FilePro acts on and asks you if you want to delete the record. Let's intercept that with that key D and do something of our own. What do we want to do? Well, we want to ask an input question. Do you want to delete this record? But the difference is, let's ask that question. We'll say at key D input. We'll use our yes, no. Let's see. By the way, I'm going to press F6 right here to see my real fields. See all the fields in this file. Then I'm going to press D for dummy fields. And I'm going to see if I have any 2-character or single-character dummy fields. And no, I don't. But now I'm going to see if I have any long variables, or which I'm going to press L. The long variables are the declared variables. That's another name for them, long variables. They're longer than 2 characters. You cannot declare a variable of only 2 characters long, because it would conflict with the pre-existing built-in 2-character variables from FilePro. So you can't really define, even though you could call one A5, there is no real A5 variable, you cannot do it. It's just, you don't do it, it can't be done. You want to have 3 characters in every variable defined. Well, we do have our yes, no variable. And I went and looked here because I didn't see it on the screen immediately. I mean, I know it's up here somewhere. Yeah, I declared it, but I forgot had I done that. I press F9, I'm going to go to the end of the table. Okay, now I'm on the input that I'm writing, and I'm going to say, okay, input, and put in the variable yes underscore no. Are you sure you want to delete this record? And put a space, because remember, we don't want the yes or no to happen right after the input. Okay, now this question is going to be thrown up on the screen when they press the D key. That's the trigger that will make it happen if they're at enter selection. And after they answer the question, we're going to say, if yes, no equals Y, we're going to execute a command called delete. And then we're going to end. Okay? And that's fine, that's dandy. But what's different than this from the built-in FilePro question? The built-in FilePro question says something like, a record deletion has been requested. Do you want to delete it? Yes, no, and it deletes it. We're not doing anything really different here. Let's do something different. And here's another important thing about FilePro processing and writing FilePro processing that I can teach you and I want to teach you. You notice that I said @key_d, I put a label here and I started typing right on the label. That was dumb, because now I don't want to ask this input question right away. I don't want to ask them, do you want to delete the record? I want to do something else first. I want to make sure they know a deletion password, something that I only give to trusted employees who are allowed to delete records. I want to know if they know that first. If they know that password, then I'll ask them, do you want to delete the record? And take their answer and do it, whether they say yes or no. But I can't write any more code here because I don't have enough room on the line. I mean, I really want to do this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to push this code down, and I'm going to erase this @key. And I'm going to put the @key up here, @key_d. And by the way, @key_d would work, but I always make it very noticeable. I say @key_D. It's not important, but I do that. And I'm not going to write anything on this then line. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to leave it there like that. Just blank. Nothing happens. That way, if I need to add something again, I just push this line down. I don't have to rewrite the label. I don't have to do all that extra work. So I always leave one completely blank line when I have a nice new label. And for my purposes, I also put a comment here and say what it is. That way I have two lines, and if I'm following my eyes or following down the table, I hit this. If I'm looking at this down this row, I know what it is. It's a label called @key_d, and this is the actual real label. This is nothing but a comment. Not going to be tested, and I'm not going to put anything on this end line. That way, if I have to add stuff to this little code, I can do it. This is even true of subroutines. Let's say remember this subroutine we wrote a little while back? On the subroutine called hard copy, we started writing right at the same line. What if I wanted to do something first before hard copy? Maybe we're in a secure office and you have to know a password to do a hard copy. I would have to push this line down, change the thing to hard copy up here, erase it over here, and then maybe ask them, push down the line and then ask them, do you know the password, etc. Okay? Well, at any rate, that's why I always leave a blank line after I start a subroutine or some trigger processing. I just don't write anything on that line at all. I don't do an if and I don't do a then, so FilePro tests the if, just like it always does. There's nothing to test, so it does the then line, which is nothing. So essentially this line is completely ignored, but it's very important because it is a label. I can go to this label and do something, or I can go sub to it and do something. I do the things that happen next, and that's a very important stylistic thing that I do in FilePro, and I think everyone should do it. Here again, I would fix this to be the way I want it to. We'll press this down. I'll do @win leaving field 19. I'll put the comment @win leaving field 19, and I will get rid of it from here if I am in the right place to get rid of it. Yes. Okay. Now I'm doing my testing the way I like to. I won't fix this line. I'll leave it the same. But okay, we're writing @key processing, and it's when @key_d happens. Now you know why I have this line up here the way I do. Before I ask them, do you want to delete this record? Yes, no, and do it. I'm going to ask them another input question. I'm going to say input, and I'm going to put into some variable. I can't put it in yes, no. I can't say put their answer in yes, no. I want to say input what is the password? Or I'll call it deletion password, question mark. And unless they answer it right, I'm not going to ask them the next question. So I have to put their answer. It might be, let's say, an 8-character password. So let me put into a variable. Let's declare a variable first. And if they hit this trigger, this D key, the very first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to declare a variable called, how about password? Or the del password. Okay? Delete password, del password. Let's make it 8 characters long. Okay? Very simple. Now I'm going to say input and put their answer, whatever they type in the keyboard, into del Password. Okay, so there's an input question that's going to be asked first, and until they answer it, the processing is going to wait right where I show you, right at the end of this thing. As soon as they answer it, FilePro tests the next if line, and the next if line is going to say, if del password not equal to my password, whatever I want to call it. How about if we call it elf? Okay, just 3 characters. We can go up to 8. They're allowed 8, but the only thing I want is elf. If they don't type in the letter elf, they're not going to be able to delete this record, because if it's not equal to elf, I'm going to do what? End. When they press the D key, if they get asked this input question, they don't answer the right thing, I'm going to just end. If they do answer it, in other words, if this is false, think about what I'm doing here. I'm testing 2 things at once. First of all, do they know the right password? If they don't type, if that variable isn't filled with the right thing, elf, it's going to end. So therefore, if they do know the right password, the if line is, if it's false, if this if line is true and they have typed in the word elf, then I'm going to I'm not going to do the end, I'm not going to do the then line, I'm going to fall through to this if line, which is nothing, and I'm going to ask them the question, do you want to delete this record? And then, if they fill that question with a yes, I'll delete it and end. But here's another thing I'm going to show you. I'm going to delete the record, and I'm going to end down here. Why? Because I'm asking them a question, then I'm testing their answer. If they get it right, if they say yes, if they do say I do want to delete it, I execute this then command, which will delete the record, and then I fall through to the next if and I end. So I'm doing it, whether they delete the record or not, I'm going to fall through to this next field. I don't have to put this end over here when I'm done. It's okay. It'll end if they delete the record, or it'll end if they don't delete the record. But either way, why have 2 ends when you only really need 1? This if condition tells me 2 things, yes or no. Just like the if condition up here tells me they either knew the password or they didn't know the password. Now let's try this real quick. Okay, I'm on our favorite first record in the file, and I press the D key. Okay, now it's not saying a record deletion has been requested. It's saying, what is the deletion password? I'm going to put in dwarf. Hit enter. Oh, nothing got deleted. Right? Let's go to another record. I like the John Esack record. Let's go to Robert, whoever this is, DeMarco. Let's press the D key here. Now, what's another password again? What is the deletion password? Again, if I type in XXX, nothing. If I press D and I type in, a whole bunch of stuff, like, let's say I type something close, ELFQQQ. Okay, and I hit enter. Did it delete the record? No, but it does say, do you want to delete the record now? So that ELFQQQ passed enough of my test to say yes. ELF, the first 3 characters, were equal to my password. I'm going to say no, I don't want to delete the record. Let me do this again. If I press D, it says, what is the password? If I type in ELF, which is the right password, and hit enter, it asks me the next question. I'll say no. If I press D and I don't type the password, it won't do it. If I hit enter, it won't do anything. If I press E and I type ELF as the first 3 characters and some other junk. How about stone? Elfstone. It asks me the question. You do want to delete this record. And here, let's do it for real now. I press delete. Do you know the deletion password? Yes, I do. Elf. Hit enter. Do you want to delete the record? Now it asks me because I'm allowed. I say yes. See what happened? I'm blinking at enter selection, and the record has been deleted. Let's go back and look at the processing table. So before I leave, I want to show you what exactly happened there. On the question about password, I'm testing, did they fill del password if it's not equal to elf? Well, FilePro does this important thing that is different than many languages. If you test for equality or not equal to something, FilePro will test just letter by letter. If Remember, I was typing in ELF QQQ, and that matched. Why? Because the first three letters were equal to this. Where, I had the same thing, so it doesn't matter what's passed here. It's testing equality letter by letter until it's finished with, in this case, the smallest part of the two things. So ELF passed, ELF stone, ELF QQQ, anything starting with ELF or ELF itself passes. And I fall through, and I get asked the input question. Okay, let's move on.